Good morning everyone, it's Carol here at Oak House Journals. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to do the next assignment for the Dogma Embroidery Challenge being hosted by Lisbeth Degn. It's officially called the Stitched Circle Show Challenge 2025. So here I am just lifting out what we've done so far. So at the moment I'm working on my second signature. Just finding the right page. That's what we did last week. And that page on the left hand side is the page that I'm going to be working on today. The first dogma rule for us to follow this week are to draw 3 or more circles of the same size and to cut them out, and we're to draw them onto either cardstock or watercolour paper. Now I've got a watercolour pad here, just a cheap one that I bought for the purpose of doing this challenge. I'm ripping out a page, but I'm hesitating because it doesn't look white, even though it is supposed to be white watercolour paper. I've cut out a portion of that watercolour cardstock, and here I'm just showing that I've used the top of a Pritt stick to cut 4 circles. And because that watercolour cardstock isn't very thick, I decide I'm going to have to use 2 layers, glue them together and then cut out the holes again. But I'm still hesitating about the colour, so I cut a portion of the cardstock that I used for the signature, or of the same cardstock that I used for my signatures, and there I'm just showing you how off that watercolour paper is. And I cut a portion of white with the holes in, so here I am bringing in the white with the holes already cut out, and what I decide I'm going to do is I'm going to back it with the watercolour cardstock and make it thicker. So that's what I've got here. Get rid of those 2 and get rid of that. Bring in my glue book and start gluing it all together. So here we go. I can speed all this up for you just using a little bit of Pritt stick on my watercolour paper, and then just positioning the white cardstock over the top. There we go, and giving it a smooth down with my bone folder. The second dogma rule was to outline the cut circles with pricked holes. So here I'm just going in initially with a pencil, and then I decide that's going to be a bit of a pain. I'm going to have to rub out the pencil marks. So I've gone in with a Frixion marker pen. I'm just doing dots all the way around the outside of each of the circle. Here I'm just counting them. And as you can see, I'm going 12 to 6, 9 to 3, and then filling in between. Doing that on each of my circles. Trying to keep the width from the dots to the cut line or the inner aperture of the circles as even as I can. And here I'm just showing you the dots that I've done all the way around, or the border I've done all the way around. So to prick these holes where I've done each of the dots, I'm just using a needle. It does get a bit painful, so I wouldn't recommend using it. And as you can see towards the end, I'm having to use my thumbnail because it was getting a bit sore on my fingers on the right hand. So there I am using my thumbnail. Now the third dogma rule is the stitch, and basically it was a straight stitch across the holes or the circles, and to vary the length for each circle, which would alter the design. So here I've gone in and I've started doing my stitching, and I'm just counting to vary the length of my stitches. And yeah, very easy, straightforward stitch, except you need a pretty long thread, and I was finding initially my threads were getting caught up in absolutely everything, if not themselves. It was getting caught up on my scissors, everything. But nice and relaxing to do, very easy, and you could tell if you were doing the stitching right and creating an almost spirograph style design by looking at the back. So as I'm working my way around this last circle, I'm just holding the threads, holding the thread with my thumb just to keep the tension before I do the next stitch. So trapping it down there with my thumb, pulling it through, and then on the back holding it with my middle finger as I go through and create my next stitch, and that just helps keep the tension just nice all the way around. You don't want the thread to be loose because the design becomes pretty baggy and you actually lose the shape of the design. But again, you don't want it too taut because that buckles the cardstock. And here you can see I'm catching my thread yet again. Fourth Dogma rule was to use a white or cream thread, and I chose a variegated size 12 perlé cotton thread, which I thought would be appropriate for the size of the circles that I've chosen to cut in my cardboard. So as you can see, just working my way around this final circle. And the fifth and final Dogma rule is, or was, optional, and it was to back the embroidery piece either with a piece of painted paper or decorative paper. This is my finished piece. I found a piece of vintage text paper that I wanted to use for my background. I thought that would be nice, and to try and capture a couple of words behind the aperture of the stitching, putting in a little bit of glue and then chopping away the excess with my scissors. And then here I am gluing the back and then gluing it into my signature, or the page of my signature, smoothing it down. Now I've actually got week 8 open there, and I was just thinking how lovely that looks against week 8, but obviously it's week 10, and that is the design that we did for week 9 to go against that page. So yeah, it's got to have a new page. So I hope Lisbeth will choose something that will blend nicely with this design for next week, week 11. Thank you so much everybody for joining me. Hope you'll join me for week 11. Until next week, take care. Bye bye now.